bi-monthly, I guess. Um, Let us know if that's something that you think would be valuable. Just sort of here's your latest update in regards to COVID-19 in the manufacturing sector, best practices, opportunities for resources, and things of that nature. So those are just a quick snapshot of some of the things we're talking about and working on within TSMA. And then I don't know, Tara, when's appropriate, when you want me to comment. You mentioned maybe just sharing a little bit about my perspective from Nick's companies. You want me to do that now?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so as it relates to getting back to work, I almost chuckle about it a little bit, and I don't mean any disrespect or minimizing the severity of the situation. I mean, we all know this is a really this is a real deal that we're going through. But we've been at work. I think a lot of you have too. So when I hear people talking about what do you need to go back to work, I'm kind of like, well, what do you mean? We're already here. What we need some support. So I just kind of noted 3 things that I thought were relevant for us. We kind of feel like this was on the call today with the TSMA Executive Committee. I heard others talk about this. We kind of feel like we're just sort of navigating through this on our own. It's like the Wild West. And, we've been forced with making a lot of really important and difficult decisions with the health and well-being of our team members in mind. And also, how do we keep the business afloat and surviving? Because if we don't, they don't have jobs. So we don't feel like there's been a real unified guidance around that. So fortunately, we've got a lot of good sharing within the community. I've been involved in calls and emails with others within TSMA, sharing best practices with each other, and I would certainly encourage all of you to do that. But we're looking for a little bit more unified and clarity guidance from either state or local officials about just what exactly do we need to follow, so that we can keep our people safe and continue to work as close to normal as possible. So that's one thing. It seems there hasn't been any clarity or unifiedness around that. The other one is childcare. As we start to go back to work, that's going to be a real difficulty with schools closed. And we're fortunate, we have work and we can try to ramp back up, but we need people to be here. And even we're a predominantly male workforce, being trades and blue collar work, but even some of them are having to chip in and help with childcare, and it's going to create some challenges. So that's something that we need to address. And then the last thing is testing. And we all know, we've heard testing, but I just want to quickly share a real life story that we went through. We had a gentleman at our Rockport facility who was showing symptoms. He called in, he did the right thing. He said, "Hey, I'm worried, I'm not feeling well." We said, "Okay, don't come to work." And after a day of asking him about his symptoms, we asked if he could get tested. And he said, "Well, I asked and they wouldn't give me testing." Luckily, I had heard from other people within TSMA, and Dave Connor with Anchor was one of them, and he had shared that they had had luck with sort of taking the bull by the horns on the testing and utilizing medical resources they had, whether it was a clinic that they commonly use or what have you. So we actually reached out on behalf of our employee and just sort of, urged them, would you please test him? And we said, he's part of a critical workforce. We're deemed to be essential. He would like to come to work, and we would also like him to come to work if he can. Would you please test him? And they did. So the short takeaway there is that, not a lot of people know that. I mean, yes, they're being cautious about who they test, but he was negative, fortunately, and he was able to get back to work a couple days later. And that was important for not only for us, but for his family, where he needed that income and he was able to get back to work. So the testing, people don't, again, there's a lot of lack of clarity and ambiguity around that. And we wouldn't have known that we could influence his ability to get tested had we not had, sharing through TSMA. So testing, childcare, and better guidance around keeping our people healthy are the 3 things that I see.
Thanks, Matthew. The floor is open to others, and if these topics are not right, please tell me. But as as people decide they want to share, I'm going to hit up a couple of people that I know are on this call. One of the things that I've been especially interested in is transportation, whether you have challenges with people getting to work, with your employees getting to work, or with you getting your goods and services out. So I'm lobbing that out as something that I haven't heard much about lately. I know that Steve Magruder is on this call, I think, so maybe he can tell us how things are going with WSI, and that will prompt any other concerns that are in that space. Steve, are you there somewhere?
Yes. Hi, Tara.
Hey.
Thank you.
Hi, Steve.
Yeah, I can speak to as far as the transportation of goods. Our transportation division has seen obviously 15 to 20% volume reductions, but it's really kind of industry specific. Our retail clients that we service, as you mentioned earlier, are obviously either shut down or severely slowed down. Manufacturing, depending on the industry, continues to operate, obviously, if they're considered essential. We certainly see that the start back up of the automotive industry is going to be key to kind of getting our feet back on the ground and back up and running, because obviously that impacts a huge amount of the economy. So as far as being able to get goods to customers, we really haven't seen a lot of issues there. Just the fact that the volumes are obviously down, but there's capacity in the network. The truck drivers have just done a fantastic job of just being on the job and taking care of customers, and working through obviously the issues of being on the road and being in contact with numerous people. So obviously that's a concern. We've put in place a lot of sanitation processes. I think I wanted to hit on Matthew's point of having a unified response of what we're supposed to be doing. I think that's been a struggle for us, as we are intertwined with a lot of our customers. So we have our customers that are putting out guidelines that they think they need that vary from customer to customer. And then internally, we're trying to determine what the right thing to do is by going to the CDC in Indiana and the other states we operate in. So that's been a challenge. There's a lot of conflicting information, and it seems to change on a almost daily basis. So trying to get a unified response to say, no, this is what you should be doing would be
I think that's legitimate. We followed closely the federal guidance and the CDC and others, and there's a lot of push to telling employers, you figure it out and let us know when you've got it figured out. And that's great if you're a very large employer, but it really does not help the vast strata of manufacturing in this country. So I'm listening closely to that to see what we can do to be more intentional as we go forward. But I do appreciate that seems like a big gap in this process we've been in.
Yeah, the other concern we have is employees coming back to work when we're ramping back up. Certainly we have, we've put policies in place that if people are not comfortable working in this current environment, that they can stay home. But there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of fear out there with our team. So we're trying to, communicate as much as we can of what we're doing to try to keep them safe. But it's a concern that we'll have the staff to be able to ramp up as things come back online.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. I think Greg Schulten has a question out there. It didn't come up on my Zoom. I don't know why I didn't see it, but I apologize, Greg.
That's all right. Mine is just a kind of a comment that we all need to really reach out to our staff. And by staff, I mean literally everybody, all the way down to the lowest paid worker in your staff, all the way to the top, and make them feel important, make them feel welcome, and about what they do is important to not only your company, but to the region and to the country as a whole or whatever. We've got to get lots of good warm fuzzies out to everybody, because if everybody can remember the last turn down of the economy in 2008 and whatnot, of the recovery, when the government's trying to protect people, which is wonderful that they do, but everything seems to have a double-edged sword. The $600 unemployment has been released now. People are starting to get it. And, you know, so if you get $600 a week tax-free, and that's the way they're going to view it, anybody that's making $15 or less an hour, that's even money. If you're about $20 an hour, considering you don't have to drive to work and park and do all that type of stuff, it's cheaper. It's financially better off to stay home than to return to work. So we're going to have to make them feel important, that what they do is important, because if it's not important, I can stay home with my kids and do housework and get paid more money than to go back to work. And it's also going to be important for us all to file unemployment. Once they have their jobs coming back, if they choose not to come back, you can protest them and say that they are offered their job and that they have refused, so we can get those payments stopped. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but we definitely are in a situation now where we're incentivizing a vast majority of our workforce to stay home.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, we'll be setting up a webinar. We'll announce it later today with 4 of our law firms to offer some content on some of these employer-related issues, because there seem to be a lot of those out there. So you'll see that announced on the Chamber website, and we'll send it out to everyone on this call later today. That'll be next Thursday afternoon. So that'll be a source that maybe can provide some guidance on some of the issues that have to do with employer-employee relations and employers staying safe and out of trouble as they navigate this new territory. So thanks for that comment.
I did want to add one other thing. Oh, am I muted? Yeah, I want to add one more thing, is that my recruiters have pointed out to me that we have been hit with so many LinkedIn connections. It's crazy. We're getting 20 and 30 people a day asking to connect with us on LinkedIn. So our recruiters have access to your workforce because they're at home answering their phone instead of at work not answering their phone. So companies that are using a recruiter, whether it be me or any of the other 10,000 agencies out in the United States, people are being kind of sniped and picked off right now. So it's another good time that, even if you're not ready to bring them back to work, to reach out and make them feel good and warm fuzzies so that they're not out looking, because there is a lot of fear that they might not be able to return to work.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky time for all of us. That's great perspective. I know that Alcoa has been reaching out to a lot of the other larger employers that have big teams of employees on the floor. And we've been trying to make sure that we share best practices among that particular group that's got a big work floor and has to manage safety and access and contractors. Carrie Flugo, are you on the call?
Yes, I sure am. Good morning, Tara, and everyone else. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, well, Alcoa, since we provide metal for the food and beverage industry, we are definitely an essential business and have been operating pretty much the same as far as production throughout this period. So we have had 1,600 employees heading to the plant every day. Those that can work from home have been working from home, but the vast majority of our people have been out at the plant. So we've spent a great deal of time, expense, and effort in putting in protocols and practices to sanitize and disinfect and keep our employees safe and keep COVID out of our plant so far. And we've been successful at that so far. So the really chief concern we have at this point is protecting our employees, not necessarily at the plant, because we've been doing that, but protecting them as other people, as there are more people to interact with out in the community. Because of the plant and everything, if we get COVID into the plant, it's going to create a lot of issues for us, and it'll probably spread pretty quickly. So that is by far and away our biggest concern, is protecting them from others, so to speak. Some of the things we've done, just since we have been sharing best practices and stuff, is we've increased the cleaning of common touch points. We hired or contractor hired, I think, 30 extra people so that we could increase it. Yeah, it's a big increase. Our procurement folks have been working around the clock, scouring the world for disinfectant and gloves, and we just recently, I believe yesterday, got a delivery of 1,600 homemade masks that we're going to be getting out to our employees.
Carrie, is that for their use when they're not in the plant?
For use when they're not in their plant, when they're in their plant.
Okay,
We're giving
okay.
them, we're giving them both bandanas and masks.
Okay.
So that they can use them whenever they need to use them.
Because you're raising a point that's really interesting to me, Carrie, and that is, should we as employers be more proactive in instructing our employees with warm and fuzzies on the changes in the larger community as it opens up? Because you're right, there's going to be a lot more opportunities for the disease to be passed.
Yeah, I mean, we have a communication. Once the masks get out, we have one ready to go about how to clean them regularly, how to care for them, and all that kind of stuff.
Would you share that with us if I
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I think the source is the CDC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, but
I'll share code though, we'll all read it. So
yeah. And where we got these 1,600 masks, we actually contracted with a lady locally who was manufacturing them. So that is something that, you know, helps out someone in the community as well. I was not involved in that procurement, so I really don't know anything more than that about it. But when you come, another thing that we've done is when you come
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. This is Sheila from SABIC. I have a question for you on your masks. We have already started handing out masks to our employees, and we did hire someone locally as well to make those. Now, and this may be too detailed for everyone, but I think this is important to share. So what we're finding is, now we did not provide bandanas. We didn't really think about that until we got some feedback from our employees on the production lines that they really like to be able to pull the masks down and up versus, you know, the kind that just go around your ear. That's the kind that we've had made, the kind that, you know, have an elastic around your ear. And and people who have safety glasses on, they fog up. The normal mask that you get, you know, from this, like the CDC, that just the cloth face coverings, they fog up your glasses pretty easily. Have you had any feedback? I don't know if anyone else has been wearing masks in their production facilities yet, or having employees wear them all day. Do they have a solution for that? Do the bandanas work better from fogging up safety glasses standpoint?
We haven't had any feedback on that yet because we haven't gotten the masks back. But one of the things that I probably should have said early on, we have areas in the plant where people are required to wear respirators per OSHA. Mm-hmm. And so part of the reason that we're providing these masks to everyone is so that we can protect our supply of the OSHA required masks that we have, so that those people who need those masks have them for several weeks to come. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, we're doing that too. The N95 or K95 respirators. Many of our employees have to wear. We've also purchased medical surgical masks. We purchased those a long time ago, but they are taking a long time to get here, the disposable. And so we had decided, as just out of the kind of out of the kindness of our hearts to help employees, we would just buy the, we're calling them the cloth face coverings, which is the homemade ones that we're having local people, and we're giving 3 to 5 to every employee that we have, even those working at home.
Yeah, I personally haven't seen the masks that we ordered and that had made, so okay. I'm not sure how their construction are. They just were delivered to the plant yesterday.
Okay.
So I don't know the construction of those, but I know the feeling that you've had just from me trying to work around and wear glasses and things like that. So
Yeah.
if we get any feedback, I'll I work with Laura Kern on boot camp. So I can always pass something on to her.
Okay, great. Yeah, because we've tried some different things. People said putting shaving cream on your glasses and like washing them with shaving cream helps defog them, and that doesn't work. So we're trying to look into some other options. There's also different, I don't know if you guys wear gaiters, those types of masks, and any of your maintenance folks for electrical welding or anything like that. But those don't quite provide the proper covering of the nose and of the mouth. So,
well, I put a note on the chat and suggested that masks seem like something that we could really share some good information on. So if you have information and you don't have access to the chat, shoot it to me or to either Sheila or Carrie, and we'll see if we can circulate that among many of you, because it sounds like
okay,
best practices would be really helpful in that. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Carrie.
Oh, that's quite all right. The only other thing I was going to add that I think would be helpful for folks to think through is to go into our plant. You typically have to go through turnstiles that have interlocking bars, for lack of a better frame. So you have to use your hands to go through them. And then we have a special use gate that you would use if someone was on crutches or something and can't manage the turnstiles. Well, we have opened up the special use gate and have staffed it with security people so that people can now go in and out of the plant without having to go through the turnstiles.
Good
Now,
idea.
At 3 o'clock when we have shift change, you don't want to be, I mean, people are going out anyway, they can go out, but they seem less concerned about it at that point. But we did open up that special use gate.
Well, I'm sure every one of you manufacturers are having to figure out how to rearrange your machines on the floor or otherwise keep social distancing, as best you can. I raise this because I know that there's certain industries that have found that nearly impossible, and we're all reading about the meatpacking industry right now. Are there others on the call that are having particular challenges with how you manage the work floor? You can unmute yourself if you do. And if not, I'll assume that's going pretty well for everyone.
Yeah, this is Sheila again at SABIC. We're not having as, we did initially, but then it just took some creative thinking of how to do that on the floor and in our control rooms, where people have to, they have 6 or 7 computer monitors in front of them. But I think that we've put in some kind of processes that has made that pretty good for us. The one thing that I did want to bring up, and I don't mean to sabotage your discussion,
no, that's fine.
Is we did start temperature screenings for everyone coming into the facility. And I had heard on the board call this week that I think some of the other companies were starting to do that. But we did do that. We started it last week with our contractors and vendors that come in for deliveries. And then we started that over the weekend for all of our employees. And one of the things that's interesting that if you haven't started it yet, to keep in mind that especially in the morning times, employees, if they're driving long distances or even short distances, they'll turn their heat on and their seat warmers and they'll have coats on, and that does impact the test results of the temperature scans. Now, the kind that we have are just the ones that you hold them near the forehead. We don't have the the thermal scanners, but we have had some false readings because of people turning up their heat really high. So we have put some procedures in or talked to employees about, shutting it down, opening up their windows, or we have them shut off their heat, sit in their car for a little bit, and then go through the gates. And then we can, retake their temperature. So that's something to be aware of.
Thank you, Sheila. I know that the thermal scanner approach to temperature taking seems to be gaining headway with a lot of our manufacturers. We've shared a couple actual brands among a few folks, but if there's general interest in that and you want your colleagues' opinions on what brands are working, again, put it in the chat or let me know, and we'll try to make sure we circulate anything that's helpful as far as, you know, which products people like best. I'm going to continue to call out a few folks on industries. I'm seeing something from Auto Parts about access to masks. We appreciate that. I want to see if it's anyone, is Jasper Engines on the line? They signed on for the call.
Yes, I'm here.
Sarah, are you out there?
Yes.
I know I'm blindsiding you, but it'd be really great to hear from the Jasper geography.
We are doing the temperature checks. We've provided masks for our employees that are still at the plants. One of our largest challenges continues to be just staffing. So as people are running into trouble with childcare and spouses and kind of navigating between who's staying home with the children, we're having to modify some of our production schedules to make it still as efficient as possible on the 4 days that we are working. So we've been taking off Mondays to try to help with some of the child care situations, but to also make sure when we are there, we are running.
Not hearing you very well, Sarah.
What's that?
Can you move closer to the mic? Did we lose you, Sarah? Sorry.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. We've moved to a 4-day-a-week schedule to try and aid in the child care situation. We were running into some staffing issues and associates having to navigate who's watching the children. We've provided the masks and we are doing the temperature checks. For the most part, things have been running pretty good with the 4-day schedules. But our biggest challenge has been navigating, keeping production going with the vendors that are shutting down here and there. We have a lot of vendors we're working through in Mexico and India that had shut down for large periods of time and really weren't working with the essential business category to where they could keep providing us with the parts that we need. So that's been a big challenge, but we've been working around them the best that we can.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the update. I meant to put supply chain on this agenda. Are there significant issues with your supply chain and how it's operating, either coming to your facility, or if you're not the OEM on your contract volume?
It has definitely been an issue. We're working with that daily. We have a group of 8 of us that meet every morning, and we're maintaining a spreadsheet. When we saw it coming, we tried to cut a bunch of large POs that would cover us for actually a 4-month period of time is what we had agreed upon with our executive team. And while a lot of the suppliers were able to fill those POs and ship the parts, the major OEs were not, and a lot of the suppliers that are OE that supply that product to the OEs, we've had some disruptions with. So we've had to go to more aftermarket parts than what we would normally. Still things that have been approved through our quality processes, but we have had to lean on some of them a bit until some of these OE suppliers and the OEs themselves open back up.
Anyone else got supply chain issues that are surprising? I mean, I'm sure everyone anticipated there'd be some, but are there disruptions, the disruptions that are more than you would have expected from anyone else?
Sarah, this is Carrie. This isn't necessarily supply chain, but one of the lessons that we had is probably one of the first actions we put in place that folks may want to think about is testing, not necessarily testing, but checks for truck drivers coming into the plant.
Yeah.
that was a huge concern for employees initially. Now, as far as I know, we don't hear any complaints about it, but you definitely want to think through those kind of things as well.
Great point. Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate that.
Hey, this is Brent with Meisler Trailer Rental. I can add to that.
Thanks, Brent.
Supply chain disruptions are not unique. We're supporting many companies right now that have had issues. I would say, from what we're seeing, and the need for mobile storage was a lot of inbound freight on containers and things like that. That was in transit before the shutdown occurred. And so there's a lot of goods and products just piling up right now. So there's a lot of that out there. And, we've been able to kind of help support some of that, but, it is out there for sure.
Well, I don't know that we can do anything about it, but as we think about things that may impact how this goes over the long term, I wanted to keep that on the agenda. So thanks for the context on that. Maybe that is where our logistics folks and our warehouse folks can be part of the solution here. Are there other issues that are not on my agenda that I had good intentions when I developed, that as a manufacturing community, you'd like us to put a top priority? I listed regulatory issues, not to imply that I know of any, but I always think that you're likely to have liability issues coming up and that sort of thing. And so if there's anything in that space that we should be aware of, I know that other partners from state, local, and federal government are listening in on this call, and so it would be an opportunity to share that if that's on any of your minds as a manufacturer. All right, I'm going to take that as you'll let me know as the opportunity progresses. We've got a little time left in the call, and I'm taking away, and so I'm looking for a yes or no, or haven't got it right. It sounds like we might be helpful in finding ways to make sure that you've got the tools to communicate with your employees about being back out in the community as we open up. So since you've been the open group, you give us a different perspective than any other group on how opening up is going to affect or disrupt your part of this economy. So I'm taking away that's a concern, childcare is a concern, and access to some basic PPE seems to be something that I think we can certainly address that. We can stand up lists and contacts for you in that space. Are there other things that you as manufacturers see differently as far as the coming process over the next few weeks? All right, I hate dead air. So I've got a couple other people I want to hit up because you're on the call and I'd like to hear how things are going for you. I'm really interested in hearing, I think someone from Wabash Plastics is on the call. Liz, are you? I know Alfonso Vidal's on the call. I'm looking at the people that are in the plastics business. We do a lot of plastics work here, and I just wanted to get a read from one of you that's in that business. Alfonso, you got anything to share with us? He's figuring out how to unmute. This is your muted signal that we're all using now.
There you go. Well, I split it in two screens, and I didn't know how unmute it with the two screens. But no, I mean, for us, one of the things that the plastic is so heavy in automotive, especially in this area, that it's just a matter of waiting for automotive to restart, so to speak. For us, everything that I heard, even though we're a very small company, we are confronting, in the same manner, same thing, same challenges. So it's a matter of just waiting. So nothing to add, I would say.
Well, I know Evolve Engineering is another one of our innovative companies, and they're on the call. Any value add from you, sir?
This is Lena with Involve, and we've seen disruption in a lot of the products that we order from China. So obviously that has affected us mainly. And we have large companies that we do work for that have stalled contracts. So we're kind of spinning our wheels, waiting for some things to pick back up, and not unlike what anyone else is experiencing.
I'm going to be presumptive and speak on behalf of Toyota because Lee Curry was on a board call we did yesterday, and Toyota's doing some, I think, interesting things in redoing their hand sanitizer machine so you can use your foot to release, and in how they make masks available so individuals aren't touching them. And she's offered to share that information with all of us. And so I will make sure that we follow up and do a little best practice circulation among all of you on a couple of those things that might be transferable among the companies that are on this call. And hopefully you'll share them with your areas of influence as well. And I know a lot of folks on this call are not manufacturers, but you represent them. And so I'll look to you with good head nods to make sure you would do that on behalf of the constituents in your community. Because I think right now the best thing we can probably do is to share what's working and save everyone from being in the trial and error space. Because Matthew made a great point at the start of this conversation. We probably could have done a little better in helping manufacturing deal with their issues specifically, as we looked at them as the most essential parts of our economy to keep running. So I'll take that as a follow-up. Other final comments from anyone that's on the call? We have more time, so I'm not intending to cut you off, but I know you're all working. So unlike most of our group that has time to exchange, more general comments, I want to be very respectful of your time. I will share that we'll be standing up several opportunities for you to get more technical information. I mentioned the webinar with our law firms next week. The Chamber has made its website very much a portal right now. So Chamber member or not, in Vanderburgh County, in Jasper County, I don't care where you are, we've tried to make it very geographically neutral and the most current information that we can put out there for all of those things that seem to be priorities. So I hope you'll use that as a source. And if things aren't there that should be, we surely want to hear from you on that, because I think what will come is we expect to hear more over the next few weeks. We will be sharing with the governor our interest in having different parts of our economy begin to open as quickly and safely as possible. And as that happens, we'll want to make sure you stay well informed, because as other parts of the economy open, you're going to take the impacts of those, I'm guessing, from some of the things that happen with your employees. And we will shift our communication to those things that are helping us with the reopening of our economy as much as possible. So that's our game plan right now. I'll be the first to say, as the executive of the Chamber of Commerce in Southwest Indiana, we have changed our plan every week, just as you're changing your plan every week. So we are, we're all about being nimble and resourceful right now. So we are open to not only helpful criticism, but any kind of criticism that helps us to do a better job to making sure that our economy stays as resilient as it can and comes through this with as little impact as we can possibly make it happen. So that's our goal. And on behalf of all the folks that are trying to be good supporters of what you do, I want to thank you for leading in this space, because you are the part of the economy that is operating in either at level or surging or whatever. And we've got more of you here in this part of Indiana than pretty much any other part of the state. So we realize we have a responsibility to listen closely to you. So Matthew, any final comments you want to share?
Yeah, thanks, Tara. Just real quickly, I want to reiterate the Tri-State Manufacturers Alliance wants to help be the resource for sharing of information during this time. So I just want to encourage everybody to please email Dorothy or I. Maybe if there's some things that are going to go out, Tara, as a follow-up, I don't mind you sharing my email address.
Perfect. Yeah.
Dorothy feels the same way. And let's have it go both ways. If there's things that you would like us to try to source and provide to the manufacturing sector as a whole, please let us know. But then also, if you have best practices or anything that you think, there's been some good things on the call today, even those very specific things like the masks and the safety glasses. I mean, those are the kinds of things that we want to get that into our newsletter and get that out there to everybody. You know, we're all in this together is very true. So that's one of the great things about TSMA and the chamber. Anyways, we're always trying to help each other be stronger. So please help us to do that. Thank you for including me, Tara.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for all TSMA is doing. I put one last slide up there for those of you that can see the PowerPoint, which we will send out to those of you that are on the phone after this call. And it's just National Association of Manufacturers. They've got a lot of great content. I'm sure you're all there anyway, so I realize this is not new to most of you, but I wanted to leave you with one other source in case there's anything specific that comes up right now. And we will follow up by sending these slides out to you. It's not significant, but it's a way of making sure that you're in an email group. And so as you, I'm now, you know, I guess, charging you with being the leaders of manufacturing communication on the short term with all of your colleagues in the region. So anything that you can share from this call or share back with Matthew and me, we'll make sure that we share it broadly. But this is the time to over communicate every way we can. So I do appreciate your time this morning. I appreciate all you're doing, not just for our region, but for the employees of this region, because every paycheck that you can keep going is huge for our economy right now. So thanks for your time, and we look forward to staying in close touch going forward. But I'll let you have the rest of your day back.